Finding roots or zeros and changing to standard form. So the difference between today's notes and yesterday's notes, does someone want to hit the lights for us? Por favor. Thank you. The difference between today's notes and yesterday's notes is they're already factored for you. So that step's done for you. So I'm hoping that by showing you what you're doing after the factoring step, you'll understand a little bit more of what you were doing yesterday. Okay? Because the factoring step is what we learned last chapter, right? This is the stuff that's new. I mentioned earlier, roots and zeros are the same thing. You'll hear me use those terms interchangeably. Sometimes they are also called solutions. And when we get to graphing, they will be called x-intercepts. Okay, so lots of words for the same thing, just to be confusing, right? Okay, so there's this thing called the zero product property. I actually just made a video on that for my IM2 class just a couple days ago, so if you wanted to go to my YouTube video, you could see a video on that one. But what the zero product property says, that if you have two things that are being multiplied that equal 0, at least one of them individually is equal to 0. So, in other words, what is 5 times 0? 0. What is 0 times 5? 0. If the answer is going to be 0, one of the things you're multiplying has to be 0. At least. So, if you have two parentheses equal to 0, then it's either 0 times something, or it's something times 0. Okay? Kind of second nature. We understand that completely. Okay, so let's look at something like this right here. And my question here is, first off, what is the degree here? In other words, if I were to multiply all of this out into standard form, what would the degree of the polynomial be? Let's look at this. The way I can find out is basically counting my x's. This is 1, right? This is 1, however, it should be written twice, right? Because that's what the parentheses means. It really means x minus 4 and then 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3, right? So how many x's do you see?
There's 3.
There's 3. How many parentheses do you see? 3. So there's going to be how many answers? 3. And it's a third degree equation with 3 solutions or roots or zeros. Okay? Now, if I have 1 0 that ends up with a multiplicity of 2, like we saw on the homework, that's going to count as 2 of my answers, or 2 of my solutions.
That makes sense because one's repeated.
Yes. So, all right, is everyone okay with how I got from there to here?
Yeah.
Okay. So step 1 says find all the roots or zeros. So let's see. From here, x minus 4 equals 0. So what do I get? X equals, there's 1 of my 3 answers. This one right here, 2x plus 3 equals 0. I subtract my 3, and you'll get to do these in your head because you'll get to the point where these are super, super easy. And I get x equals negative 3 over 2. Now, do I need to take the time to solve this last parentheses? No, because it's the exact same parentheses. I just solved that. So what does that mean about this negative 3 over 2? Squared. Not squared. It has a multiplicity of 2. Or you could say dr for double root, but I usually just do multiplicity of 2. So where are my 3 answers? 1, 2, 3. So this counts as 2 answers because it comes from 2 parentheses.
Can we just put dr2?
That's kind of redundant. You don't have to put dr2 because double root means 2.
Okay.
Double 2.
So I just put 3 over 2 and then dr. It's fine.
Negative 3 over 2 dr. Okay. Sometimes you also have a tr, a triple root, because it may happen 3 times. Any questions about how I got that? That's what you were doing on last night's homework. After you factored, set them equal to 0 and get your answers. The second part of this says rewrite the polynomial in standard form. How do I do that? Multiply. Multiply it out. When you have 3 parentheses, what do? You take 2 at a time, and then you take that answer and multiply it by the third one. When I have 2 parentheses that are the same, I'm actually going to do those first because I think they go faster. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 3 times 2x is another 6x. 3 times 3 is 9. Now, before I multiply that, sorry, x minus 4, let me write the rest of the problem because I haven't touched the x minus 4, and the equals 0 just comes along for the ride. Before I distribute the x minus 4 through there, I'm going to combine my like terms because that'll give me one less thing to multiply by. So I have x minus 4, and then 4x squared, what, plus 12x plus 9? And then you can take a minute and multiply that because that's what we did the other day, right? Or last chapter. So go ahead and finish that off.
It's the same idea, right?
Mm-hmm. Just multiplying. Just make sure at the very end your answer is in standard form. All right, is that what you got? Multiplying those? 4x cubed minus 4x squared minus 39x minus 36 equals 0?
Wait, yeah.
Yeah?
39.
Yeah?
Okay.
We good there? Okay. So let's look at another one.
Wait, that's the answer?
There were 2 parts. Come up with these guys, and then write it in standard form. So there's my standard form.
Oh, yeah.
And then fill in this information. All right. So looking at this guy. This guy's a little trickier. What is the degree?
4.
How many x's are here?
2.
2. How many are here? 2 more, giving me 4. And I have another one.
So 5.
So 5. So this is a 5th degree equation. So how many solutions are there going to be? 5. Okay? So let's find those 5 solutions. Now, I have an x squared out in front. If x squared is equal to 0, what does x equal?
0.
0. That's actually going to count as a double root, or a root with a multiplicity of 2. Why?
Because it's squared.
When you take the square root, technically you have to take a positive and a negative, right?
Yes.
Well, positive 0 and negative 0 are both just 0, but it is 2 answers. So when I have x squared equals 0, I do have x equals 0 with a multiplicity
It's like
of
plus
2.
Minus.
Yes. Like if I had x squared equals 9, I have 3 and negative 3, right? So there's 2 of my 5 answers. So far, so good? Let's do this guy now. X squared minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to add 2. That gives me x squared equals 2. And then how do I get x by itself? Remembering what? Plus and minus, like I just talked about. So this one gives me positive and negative square root of 2. So how many answers are there?
2.
2. Positive square root of 2, negative square root of 2. So I now have 4 of my 5 answers. Where's my last answer coming from? Okay. So 3x minus 5 equals 0. I'm going to add 5.
5 over 3.
3x equals 5. Divide by 3. And x equals 5/3. So? What's the second step of the problem? Put it in standard form, right? So, let's see. X squared times x squared minus 2 times 3x minus 5 equals 0. Now, I will get people that will ask me, do I have to distribute this x squared through both parentheses? And the answer is no. Because if I distribute through this first parentheses, x to the fourth minus 2x squared, that x squared is now like hidden in there, right? So when I multiply that by this, because it's hidden in there, it's now going to be multiplied through here. So just multiply it through one of them, and then take the answer and multiply it through the other one, okay? So go ahead and finish that problem. I'll finish it too. I like that one because there's no like terms to combine. Boom. And it's in standard form right there. So?
But you just gotta do to 1.
You
just gotta do to 1.
Okay. Really quickly, I kind of have to zoom through here because my period is ending soon. How many roots, or what's the degree of this equation? This one's way crazy. It would take a long time to multiply. You're not going to do that. But what's the degree?
10, 12.
This is what? 3, because of that. This happens 5 times. This happens twice. And that one happens twice. So 3 and 5 are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So here I get an answer of x equals 10 with a multiplicity of what? 3. Here I get an answer of x equals -3, right, when I set it equal to 0, with a multiplicity of what? 5. Here I get x equals -4 with a multiplicity of 2. And here, this one's a little trickier. X squared plus 9 equals 0.
Plus minus 9. Plus minus 3.
Careful. X squared equals -9. So when I square root, I'm taking the square root of a negative. So yes, it's a plus or minus, but it's plus or minus 3i.
Oh, no.
I know.
What?
Okay? We're not doing anything with it, but there's our 12 solutions. Okay? All right. While I'm passing out the homework, see if you can find the degree and the number of roots. You don't have to solve them. Just tell me what the degree is and the number of roots.
14.
Do you notice that the degree and the number of the roots is the same? That's that fundamental theorem of algebra. What's the degree of this guy?
14.
14, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And what about this one? 1, 2,
12.
3, 4, 5, and 7?
12.
12 and 12. Okay? All right. Happy studying.